Hey guys, it's Michaela here. It's a little weird being here without Gretchen, but I'm here to do my solo wrap-up for 2015. So I'm going to talk about everything that I did on my blog and my top 5 favorite books of the year. When it came to my blog, I did 48 posts in total, which is less than I would like, but more than I thought I did, because I know that I didn't do any posts pretty much for the entirety of my spring semester at school. So I'm okay with that number. I'm hoping that next year there will be so many more because I'm not in school and I have more time to read and to give to things like my blog and the YouTube channel. 12 of those posts were related to book club, so they were either me and Taylor reviewing a book, me, Taylor, and Gretchen reviewing a book, me, Taylor, Gretchen, and a guest mancer reviewing a book, and discussing it for about an hour. Those all have videos associated with them, and you'll find them in the playlist that is marked Bibliomancy for Beginners. I only did one post to consolidate all of the hashtag Nostalgia Junkie stuff, so there are 10 videos for that, also in its own playlist. But only one post on my blog, which, I mean, I could have done in 10 separate posts, but I ended up just doing a wrap-up, putting them all together in one. I did 10 individual reviews this year. 8 of those were comic reviews, and 2 were book reviews. The 2 book reviews were 1, Me and the Devil by Nick Tosches, and 2, Wild by Cheryl Strayed. And I did a book and movie review for that one. All of those book club videos were technically also reviews, but these were the reviews that I did on my own, and I will link to those posts down below if you would like to read them. None of them are videos, they're all written out with words, and I think they're alright. 4 of my posts had to do with you guys, Betwixt the Books, so those are videos that I did with Gretchen. 2 tags that were mine, there's the other 2 tags that went on Gretchen's blog, but 2 tags that were mine. The Hermione discussion and the 30 seconds video that we put on my blog. There's also a second 30 seconds that goes on her blog, but for mine there were 4 posts. I then had 22 miscellaneous posts. Those ended up being miscellaneous things like wrap-ups or musings on things like positivity and book awards, how I choose my books, what it's like being at school for the last time. I also did one post that is all of my favorite booktubers, so if you want to check that one out, I'll also link it down below so you can see what I think and who I watch. A handful of those are also about K-pop because I listen to a lot of K-pop and I care. I've been learning Korean as well, so you might see a couple of those posts coming in the new year. When it comes to the books I read this year, I read 48 books today, which is Monday. I plan on reading at least 2 more to reach my Goodreads goal of 50 for the year. I'm currently halfway through Boy Snowbird as well as A Tale for the Time Being, so I should have both of those done by the 1st. I have not reviewed all of the books that I've read, but I did start this year by doing Goodreads first impressions sort of things with all of the things that I've read, so my Goodreads is linked in the description. If you want to see what I thought and what I read, you can always go there. I always post at least a first impressions there if I'm not going to do a full review, so that you can get some idea of what I think of the books that I read. I feel like most of the books I read this year are technically bind-ups of comics because I was reading a lot of comics in the spring as opposed to full novels. I pull comics weekly, so I can't say that I read them like all at once. I read them over a long period of time, so there were some comics I had started last year and came over to this year, and when the volume is released, I say that I have read the volume, obviously. Alright, my top 5 books of the year. I'm going to go in chronological order, so this does not at all reflect what I think of the book individually. It's not 5 to 1, 1 to 5, this is just chronological. The first book that I read this year that I really enjoyed was The Martian. A lot of people talked about that. I don't think you need me to tell you anything about it. The movie came out. I haven't done a post on this. I want to watch the movie and then do a dual book and movie review, but I really loved the book. I listened to it on audio, I thought that the narrator was great and that it was very funny. The second book that I really loved was actually a collection of short stories. It's Get in Trouble by Kelly Link. Taylor and I both read it and reviewed it as a bibliomancy thing, but we really love her. She's actually sort of a local author for me. She lives in The Town Next to Mine. All of the short stories were really great. She usually does magical realism. I really loved a lot of the stories that had to do with superheroes in this collection, so if you like superheroes and magical realism, I would recommend checking them out. The third book that I really loved this year was Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill. It is a ghost story. Joe Hill is Stephen King's son, if you didn't know, and I have read all of his novels, I think. The only thing I haven't read of his is his short story collection, and I'm looking to do that in the new year. I read it for the Summer Booktubeathon, and I was reading it because Taylor had said that that was his favorite novel of Joe Hill's, whereas my favorite novel of Joe Hill's is Nosferatu, which I read last year, and I have a review of that. If you haven't read any Joe Hill, I would recommend starting with this one because it is his first book, so it's not his best constructed book, but it's one of the best ghost stories that I've read in a long time. I gave it to my father for Christmas, actually. The fourth book that I really loved was Jazz by Toni Morrison. I had to read that for my Toni Morrison seminar. It was my favorite of her books that we read. It takes place in the jazz era. It has this really weird circular nature that sort of like nests and becomes greater. I felt that the structure of that was so great and the storytelling was so great. I really loved the way that the narrator was kind of pulling stories from everywhere and it became sort of like an oral tale. All of those things made me really love that one. And most people would say, but you read Sula and Beloved, and I would say, I still liked Jazz better. The last book that I really loved, and it's actually a comic, it's the second volume of Low, which I just bought. I have been reading Low all year, and it's my favorite comic of the year. It's my favorite comic that I'm reading right now. If you have not read Low, please go read Low. I love it so much. The art is fantastic. It's got to do with this post-apocalyptic world where everybody is living in these hubs in the ocean because the air is polluted, so they all went down into the deep ocean, but they have been staying there for generations and generations, and they're running out of supplies. All of the different hubs are kind of falling apart, and as a result, the people start going kind of crazy. It's a story of one particular family as they try to make their way to the surface to reach a probe that says that has found another planet that's suitable for life. If you like science fiction or dystopian or post-apocalyptic stories, I would really recommend this comic to you. Alright guys, so that was my wrap-up for 2015 on to 2016. I hope you guys are looking forward to it, and if you haven't checked out Gretchen's solo wrap-up, you should totally do that. It's on her blog, I'll link it down below. We also did a video that was a dual wrap-up of what we did together, which has all of our Bibliomancy episodes and our Betwixt the Books episodes. I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll talk to you soon.